The Virginia Tech Hokies are looking to bounce back in the ACC this year under head coach Brent Pry after going 7-6 last year. Not the worst record to be going into the 2024 season. Now, Virginia Tech is one of those teams that we don't know a lot about. What we do know is they returned star quarterback Kyron Drones, who is, in my opinion, possibly a Heisman contender under the radar. We're heading out to Blacksburg, Virginia, to give you an inside look on the Virginia Tech football program heading into the 2024 season. I'm Nathan Johnston here with my co-host Brad Hopkins. It's time to break the huddle. Brad, as I mentioned in the intro, Virginia Tech, man, one of those teams that you really just don't know what's going to happen this year. We do know that they return all 11 offensive starters on that side of the ball, which is tremendous news for the Hokie fans. Outside of that, as we mentioned, Brent Pry, 10-14 in his coaching career. I'll turn it over to you, Brad. They didn't really do much in the transfer portal. They're bringing in a couple of freshmen. What are your thoughts on the Hokies and this Virginia Tech program heading into the 2024 season?
Yeah, Nate. So Virginia Tech is always a program that I've respected because it's a tough place to recruit, and bottom line, they're not getting a whole lot of 5-star players, not getting a whole lot of 4-star players. So they have to, I guess, work their recruiting fields a little bit tougher than some other teams. Obviously, they had success under Frank Beamer. They had some early success under Justin Fuente, and then he tailed off. And Brent Pry comes in a really, really bad first season. But I thought last year in his second season there in Blacksburg, they made some tremendous strides. I mean, 7-6 doesn't blow you away, but they had a winning record in the ACC. They got hot there at the end of the year, winning their last two. And I'm going to tell you, Nate, they started late in the year to put up some serious offensive numbers. Their last two wins against Virginia in the rivalry game, they put up 55, and then the bowl game against a very, very good Tulane team, they put up 41. So this is some offense that absolutely last year showed some explosiveness. And you mentioned the guy, and I'm glad you did, Kyron Drones. This is a guy that I don't feel a whole lot of people know about him, but he's a very, very big physical quarterback who is when you say dual threat, this kid is it. Last year had good numbers throwing the ball, 17 touchdowns to 3 picks, only averaged 160 through the air. But, he counters that. He averaged almost 63 yards on the ground and added another 5 touchdowns. So this guy is a true dual threat. I think, obviously we're in the heat of spring practice right now. If he can, Nate, continue to develop as a passer, man, this Virginia Tech offense, I think really, really looks formidable. Nate, I know we're both big on what does the schedule look like. That's a big thing that we've been focusing on in these team previews here this spring. Man, I got to tell you, I like how the schedule sets up. Obviously, looking at it, just doing a quick glance, the big one is November 9th against Clemson. But Nate, once again, that's in November. Virginia Tech's going to know what kind of team they have. It honestly, it sets up well, and with the uncertainty at Clemson, Florida State's, reloading. Man, we've talked about it here for a few weeks here on Break the Huddle. The ACC to me is very, very wide open. If Kyron Drones, if he's able to build off what was already a very, very impressive season, Nate, I feel like Virginia Tech is a dark horse to maybe win the ACC. But that's my thoughts on the Hokies. I like what Brent Pry's doing there in Blacksburg, though.
Yeah, absolutely, Brad. It's going to be a coin flip, no doubt. And you mentioned their schedule. One thing that I noticed right off the bat is outside of having to play on the road at Stanford in October, every single away game on their schedule is on the East Coast. And I don't care what conference you're playing in, who you're playing for, you got to feel pretty confident about that kind of schedule heading into the new year, knowing that, again, outside of having to travel to California, your games are going to be all on the East Coast. A lot of teams are going to have to travel all over. When you think of teams like USC and UCLA, they're going to have to travel out to the Midwest and elsewhere whenever they play their road games. But for the Hokies, they get to stay on the East Coast. And you mentioned quarterback Kyron Drones. Excuse me. quarterback at Virginia Tech. Big physical guy, 6'2", 234. And man, that's a good guy to have because look, he may not be the tallest, but he has tremendous arm strength. And if he needs to run the ball, he is an absolute bulldozer. Not many people are going to want to tackle that guy at that size. I mean, he is very physical. And I want to mention a couple of transfers and signees for the Hokies as well. They did a tremendous job going out and upgrading the offensive line. They signed freshman offensive interior lineman Tommy Ricard, 6'3", 280. They go out and get an offensive tackle in Webb Davidson, 6'5", 240 from Macon, Georgia. And they also go and get offensive tackle out of the transfer portal from Georgia State, actually. 6'3", 285, Montavious Cunningham. So, look, it's very obvious that they wanted to go out and help Drones at the quarterback position, help protect him. And then we look at the defensive side of the ball. Man, did they go out and get some playmakers. Aeneas Peebles, defensive lineman, 6'1", 286, a big physical guy up front from Duke, transferring over to Virginia Tech. I think that's a really underrated pickup, as well as Kelvin Gilliam, edge rusher, 6'2", 250 from Oklahoma, comes back to his home state of Virginia. He's from Highland Springs, Virginia. It's setting up for a pretty good season for the Virginia Tech Hokies. And if you're a Hokies fan, let us know what you think about your team heading into the 2024 season. We'll see you next week. It's time to break the huddle.